All right, so we're looking at the last problem of your 10.2 homework, which is probably the toughest one on there, where you have to do a partial payment and use the calendar and refigure. So I'm going to walk you through those steps. We're using the base formula that I equals P times R times T, the principal times rate times time. And we have taken out a loan for $10,000.90. That's our principal that we start with. The rate is 8%, so 0.08. And then the thing is, we're always figuring the time of these partial payments, and we're going to pay our interest based on our partial payment date. So the effective date, it starts August 31st. So I use this handy dandy calendar to find August the 1st, and it's the 213th day of the year. So it originates on the 213th day of the year. I'm going to make a partial payment of $5,000 on September the 1st. September the 1st is the 244th day of the year, so let's subtract. That's 31 days, which you kind of maybe knew that. There's 31 days in August, so 31 days, and I'm going to divide by 360 is the default, even though I know there's not exactly 360 in a year. There's 365 or 366, but usually for calculating we use 360, unless otherwise stated. All right, so I'm going to owe some money up for that month, so the interest, we'll type that on our calculator. Okay, and I'm getting 75.08 repeating, so I'm going to round that up to 75.09 cents. So that's the interest that I owe on my principal, $10,900. So I'm going to take off the interest that I owe to figure out, what principal I'm actually going to get to pay on. So you subtract off the interest. I know normally we add the interest. If we were paying off this loan on that day, we would just take our principal plus our interest and say, hey, here's the money, I'm done. If you would have paid it off on September 1st, but we're not. We're just making a partial payment. So I have to say, this is the interest I owe on this money. Well, actually, I think you can do that, but I think it's easier to take your $5,000. Let me, since I've talked to you here, I've revised my thinking. I'm going to take my $5,000 partial payment. I'm going to subtract the $75.09 off of that in retrospect. So your partial payment is $5,000, and I want to know how much of that actually goes on the principal. So let's do $5,000 minus that, and it will be $4,924.91 actually gets to go towards the principal. So let's subtract that off of our $10,090. So $10,900 is what I owe altogether, and I'm making a partial payment of $5,000. It says a partial payment, $5,000 on September the 1st, but I owe interest for that month. So I had to pay my interest that I owed, $75.09. So I take that interest off of my $5,000 to say, well, how much do I really get to pay on the principal? So $49.24.91. So we're knocking down the principal is what we're doing, making it a lesser amount going forward. So there we go. I've made a partial payment, and there's that repeating 8 again, so I'm going to round that up to 9 cents. And that's how much I owe starting on September the 1st. As of September 1st moving forward, that's my new principal. All right, so now I'm going to wait until October the 15th. Now, it's not due until all of it's due November 1st, but I'm making these partial payments as I can. So on October the 15th, I'm going to go in and make another $1,000 payment. So we need to figure out how much I owe from September the 1st to October 15th when I sort of restarted this loan. So September the 1st was that 244th day of the year, we know, and we're going to October 15th. Where is October 15th? 288th day of the year. So let's see, 44 days went by. So I'm going to owe this on 44 days. Here's my I equals PRT method, and I owe on 5/9/75/09. The rate is still 8%, and my time is these 44 more days that have passed. And I recalculate. So I type that in my calculator. 44 days. We always divide by the 360 in the days. and that gives me $58.42. So that's the interest I'm going to owe in that increment of time. So I'm making $1,000. It says you're making $1,000 partial payment on October 15th. So of that $1,000, just like we did before, subtract out how much of it you've got to give towards the interest, the use of the money. So $1,000 minus your interest means you net $941.58 to the nearest penny. And it worries me when I do this rounding because it's actually 57,68978 on my calculator. And so when I round to the nearest penny, with rounding in the intermediate steps, sometimes at the end you can still be off by a penny or so with repeated rounding. So if that happens to you, please just send me an email and I can just change your score if you tire of doing these over and over. If that happens to you, if you're just off by a penny or two, and I know you've done the procedure correctly and understand it, that is fine. Okay, so we're making a $941.51 impact partial payment on our principal. Remember back in September, our principal got knocked down to $5,975.09. So of that, now we're going to take out $941.58. So let's subtract 5975.09 minus 941.58 cents. And our principal has now come down to this new lower value, $5,033.51. All right, we're about to get there. The maturity date, we make no more partial payments. We wait until the maturity date of November 1st, and how much do we owe? I think that's the only question we have, is what's the balance on the date of maturity? So none of these intermediate steps are asked in your calculation. Just want to know on November the 1st. Okay, so on November the 1st, let's see. We've got October the 15th is where we left off. October the 15th was the 288th day of the year. Then I have to use my calendar and find November the 1st is the 305th day of the year. So 305th, let's see, I've got to subtract those. 305 minus 288 equals 17 days. So 17 days will be my time. So I've got I equals PRT once again. My principal, which keeps going down just a little bit each time you make that partial payment. Rate is still staying steady at that 8% that we were given. And time is now just 17 days over 360 that I'll owe interest on that principal. So I calculate that. This is why it's very helpful if you'll make these partial payments on student loans or any type of loans you have. It will help lower the principal that you're paying on. And that's what these three things multiply together to give you interest. So if you can make this be lower by any amount, every dollar will count, and that will help you have less interest that you'll owe at the end. All right, I calculated that to be $19.02. Again, the decimals aren't coming out perfectly, but I'm rounding to the nearest penny in intermediate steps, which does make me a little bit nervous about my final answer being off by a penny or two by repeated rounding. Okay, but let's keep going with that and just see what happens. So I owe $19.02 on my interest for this final show here, the final principal that I owe on. So now I do want to add that together because I'm going to pay it off. My principal that I owe on here at the end that I've knocked it down to, plus the interest that I've accrued for those 17 final days. So I type in $5,033.51 plus $19.02. And let's see, drum roll, if we made it. That's what I calculated out to be. Let's see if my answer key, wait a minute. I think we got it. $5,052.53. So I'm going to say that it looks like this program was programmed by a programmer to work to where if you do round to the nearest penny as you go through your steps, that it does work out in the final end. But again, if you miss it by a penny or two, I know that's a lot of work to go through. I think it's good work. I think it's kind of fun, actually. I know that's maybe sounds weird to some of you all, but I think it's kind of a neat process to see in action. It's something that we all can relate to. So I don't know, maybe you just want to do it again or to get some more practice. Please always know to hit similar problem, and you can get more practice with these and just get stronger in solidifying in your mind the process. So I think that's good for you. But again, don't get frustrated and want to throw your computer maybe out the window or anything. Do send me an email and say, hey, Miss Shelton, I'm off by a penny. Can we just change the score and go on? And I'm okay with that. All right. Anyway, I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any further questions. Best wishes.